You know that feeling, right? You walk into a store, see something you love on sale, and your brain just goes, yep, I need to get a couple of those. We've all been there. It feels totally instinctual. But what if I told you that simple, everyday decision is actually guided by a really powerful economic principle? Well, that's what we're going to get into. Let's unpack the science behind why we all love a good bargain.
So, this is the big question. Why is that reaction so universal? It's not just a weird personality quirk, it's a fundamental law of how economies work. And over the next few minutes, we're going to crack that code together.
To get a handle on this, economists needed a way to, actually see this behavior. And what they came up with is a surprisingly simple but really powerful tool. It's basically a map of our collective wants. Let's try and build one from scratch.
Okay, let's start with just one person. We'll call her Consumer A. Now, if her favorite cup of coffee is, say, $5, maybe she just buys one a week as a little treat. But if that price suddenly drops to $2, she might start buying 3. That connection between the price and how much she's willing to buy, that's her own personal, individual demand. Pretty simple, right? Now let's bring in her friend, Consumer B. Maybe Consumer B is a total coffee fanatic, so at $5, he's still buying 2 cups, and at $2, he might go for 5. Now, his preferences are different, for sure, but notice the pattern. It's exactly the same. The price goes down, and the amount he's willing to buy goes up. So how do we get from just 2 people to, like, the entire market? It's actually way simpler than it sounds. Just look at this table. At that $5 price point, we just add Consumer A's 1 cup to Consumer B's 2 cups, and boom, the total market demand is 3. We just do that for every single price, adding them up side by side. That's why it gets the fancy name horizontal summation. And when you do that for everyone in the market, not just 2 people, but thousands or even millions, and you plot all that on a graph, you get this, the market demand curve. It's really just a picture of all of our individual choices added up together. And you'll notice it always slopes down. But why? I mean, what's the deep human psychology that's driving that universal pattern? And this is where we get to the real heart of it. That downward slope isn't just one thing. It's driven by what economists call the price effect. And that's actually 2 different, really powerful forces that are working together every single time you look at a price tag. Right, so this price effect, think of it like a 1-2 punch that hits us and changes our behavior anytime a price drops. Let's break down those 2 parts. So, on one hand, you've got the substitution effect. This is super intuitive. If coffee brand A goes on sale, it's now a better deal compared to brand B. So what do? You substitute the cheaper one for the more expensive one. It's just a rational switch. But then, on the other hand, you've got the income effect. When the price of that coffee falls, the money you were already planning to spend now goes further. You literally have more purchasing power. It makes you feel a little bit richer, and that frees up your money to buy more coffee or maybe something else entirely. It's a brilliant little window into how our brains process a simple sale.
Now, that substitution effect isn't always the same strength. It really kicks into high gear when the products are almost identical, like 2 different brands of cola. It's also way stronger when it's just plain easy and cheap to switch. Think about it. If your favorite app suddenly raises its price, but a nearly identical one is free, switching is a total no-brainer.
But wait, the substitution and income effects, they aren't the whole story. Turns out there are 3 other, more subtle forces working in the background that really complete the picture. Let's check them out. First up, something called diminishing marginal utility. Just think about pizza night. That first slice, it's amazing, pure joy. The second one's still really good, but by the 5th slice, the magic's kind of gone. You're only going to be tempted to buy that 5th slice if the price is super, super low to make it worth that little bit of satisfaction you get. Next, a lower price is basically a welcome mat for new people. At a high price, only the biggest fans can afford those front row concert tickets. But if you drop the price, a whole new wave of people who were priced out before can suddenly join the party. And finally, we get creative with cheap stuff. I mean, when electricity was a crazy luxury, people used it just for a little bit of light. Now that it's relatively cheap, we use it for everything, from running supercomputers to charging our toothbrushes. A lower price literally unlocks new uses we never thought of before. Okay, so let's pull all these ideas together now. That simple, downward sloping line we saw on the graph, it's actually telling a really complex and, honestly, a very human story. It's so much more than just math. It's the story of all of us making choices all at once. It's the story of switching to the store brand, feeling like our paychecks stretched a little further this week.
getting less excited about that third donut, seeing new people finally able to afford a smartphone, and finding a dozen new ways to use a cheap ingredient. That is what the law of demand really is. But all this brings up a really fascinating question. Is this law totally unbreakable? I mean, are there special things out there that completely defy this logic? Items that actually become more desirable to us because they're more expensive? We'll have to leave that little mystery for another time.